Buying property can have its highs and its lows.
Yes, and it's not always as easy as it might seem, especially if you're stuck in a chain.
But you can eliminate that by buying under the hammer.
Well, there are all sorts of properties coming up for auction these days.
And all sorts of budgets to match.
Yes, it might pay to hedge your bets. Let's see the properties that are coming up for auction today.
As the major artery into London, the Thames has played an important role in establishing the growth of the city. But living beside its banks hasn't always been desirable.
During the 18th century, this area was known for its gambling and prostitution, a London Las Vegas for the rich. Now, Fulham is a really swanky part of southwest London. It's got everything a discerning buyer could wish for. Trendy eateries, lots of foaming lattes, a lovely river, and its very own Premiership football club. Although you may need footballers' wages to live around here.
The house we're here to see is close to the river and is in a residential area favoured by families.
This area is known as Alphabet Streets because all of the roads are named in alphabetical order around here. Well, this one is L for Lycia Street, and here's the property. Now, it's a 3-bedroom end of terrace house, and it's on at a guide price of £600,000.
600 grand may seem a lot for an end of terrace property. But remember, we're not talking just London, but Fulham prices.
I really do love these old Victorian houses. I've got to say I'm quite passionate about them. Some I've seen recently have had quite a few of these walls knocked out. This one in particular, and I think this room would really benefit from that. You've got the old ceiling rose up there and that gorgeous bay window. Now, once that's been refurbished, it will look fantastic. There's a fake fireplace over here. I think something more traditional and in keeping would look good. But that up there is shocking. There's the biggest crack you've ever seen. Now, I know there is some history of subsidence in this street, but whatever the weather, that needs to be looked at by an expert straight away.
Not the best of starts structurally, but there are signs of plenty of character. Those continue down the hall where there's another reception room stroke dining room, and then beyond that is the kitchen.
Well, this kitchen really is a plus point to the property. It's a huge family space. I think this area would originally have been the 3rd sitting room, and through here, the scullery. But as it is at the moment, it's set up in a very sort of mock Tudor style. It's certainly worth ripping the whole thing out and putting something extremely top spec in.
This kitchen area could be fantastic. It's a good space and could be transformed into an area with a real wow factor. Which is more than can be said for the garden.
Well, so far it's all looking rather good in this house, although I do think, as it is, it's a family property, and this backyard is clearly too small. There ain't a lot of space out here. The neighbour has already extended their kitchen into their outside space, and if you come round here, you can see there's a whole area, a big side return, that's just wasted. Nobody's going to use this space. I think it might be a good idea to think about extending over here. A lot of the neighbours have already set a precedent and done this in the street. And if you knock down what looks like an old bomb shelter, you could certainly increase the square footage of the backyard.
So this area needs to be thought through, with every inch utilised to maximise the space. That's also true upstairs, where there's a relatively small bathroom and 3 bedrooms of varying size. There are also more cracks and signs of damp. I think by losing the smallest bedroom and rejigging, you could get a decent-sized bathroom and 2 good-sized bedrooms, maybe even one en suite. And there may be a way of then getting back that third bedroom.
I really hope the potential purchaser has a good old look up in the loft, because one great way to enhance a home is to create space where there was no living space before. Now, in some instances, it's cheaper to build up than have an extension out the back. And in this part of London, when you add square footage, you add value.
With a loft conversion, you might even gain enough extra footage to split the house into 2 flats. Then you're in the hands of the planners. So does a local property expert think it's worth the risk?
The main problem with converting one house into 2 units or more than 2 units is generally down to parking saturation. Here, because we've got a school across the road, there is very little parking problem across the road, and they measure it on the saturation of parking at a certain time of night. So I would guess there wouldn't be too much of a problem getting planning.
That means there is a possibility of converting into 2 flats, but do the numbers stack up well enough to make it worth considering?
I think if you just refurbed it without extending it, I think you could be looking at somewhere in the sort of mid to late 600s, 675, that sort of region. If you extended the house fully into the side return and loft conversion, then I think you could be looking at around the 775 to 800,000. If you converted it into 2 flats, I think you could be looking at a 2-bedroom ground floor flat, 375 to 400. And a split level 2 to 3 bedroom apartment on the top, I think you could be looking at 450 to 495, that sort of area.
With the cost of conversion, you may not be adding a massive increase to the resale value, but if you want to rent out this property, then 2 flats will substantially increase your return.
You know, this house is certainly an example of the overheated London property market, where 3 bedrooms and a tiny backyard like this is going to set you back 600 grand at auction, and that's without the £100,000 you need to spend on doing it up. But in my opinion, your money is pretty safe when you invest in an area as consistently in demand as SW6 in Fulham. Let's go to auction.
39 is 88 Lisa or Liza Street. Hand it over to you. Where do you want to start? 5? Yes, 500. 510 anywhere. 510. 520. 530. 540. 550. 560. 570. 580. 590. 600. 610, 620, 625, 625, sir, or 621, try and help, yeah, 621, 622, madam, 623, 624, 623 with you, first time, second time, third and last time, you all done, sold, 623, well done.
The final bid of $623,000 was made by experienced property developer Bahram. Originally from Iran, Bahram has been property developing for about 15 years.
Now, Bahram, you paid £23,000 over the guide price at auction. How do you feel about that?
Well, if I would have seen the place in the first place, perhaps I would have not paid that much over the odds, but give and take, perhaps I would have.
So, what was your initial reaction when you opened the front door and you walked in here?
In fact, I was quite happy to see that we've got a good-sized kitchen here. Most of the places you find them small, even you cannot turn a cat around. And this is a good-sized kitchen as far as I'm concerned, and I can turn this around and make a very good space for breakfast come sort of a kitchen, in my opinion, and then that will be fine.
We mustn't override the fact that there is a whopping great crack in the front room out there.
Yeah.
What's the history with that?
Well, it's just only movements and it's just only the ceiling. I wouldn't read much into it. I mean, say we'll be taking all the ceilings down, we'll be treating all the woodwork and all that lot. It doesn't mean much to me.
Although Bahram has been property developing for many years, that was not what he planned to do when he first came to the UK over 25 years ago.
So what is your background? Have you always been involved in property?
No, as a matter of fact. I was nothing to do with the properties initially, and I was trained originally to become a ship's captain, and I was trained here in the United Kingdom.
Now that's quite a difference, moving from a ship's captain to property developing. What happened there?
Yeah, the thing is, when I had my first child born to me, and my wife didn't want to go back to sea, and being, a seafarer, it's a bit of a perhaps difficult life for the background of the life I had with my wife, and then whilst we were here, we settled down here, and then I've not been to sea at all since.
He certainly seems to have found his land legs in the property business. He has an extensive property portfolio now. But is he all at sea about which approach to take with this house?
Bahram, I really see this as a family house, but I have a massive problem with the fact that you've got such a small garden here. I really think that's going to hold the sale of this house back.
We do seem to have a small garden, which will take this shed away. It's a bomb shelter, I suppose. Once we do take this one away, then we'll have a bit of a garden to ourselves. But in this whole parade, all of these houses have got a similar garden, so I don't think I can just say this particular one has got a small garden. I don't think so.
Bahram, you've got this side return down the side of the property.
Yes.
Is it likely that you might, convert that?
I have intention of asking the planners if they'll allow me to extend to the side. I think it would be advisable to do that because we'll create more space.
Bahram's keen on the idea of a side extension, and he's also considering a loft extension, which will give him 2 options for the house.
Do you see yourself developing this as a family home? Because, you have got the option of 2 flats here.
I'm inclined myself to go for 2 flats. It's my gut feeling telling me that I should go for 2 flats because I want to keep the property rather than selling it. And then we'll get better return on the rental income in comparison to 1 house, 1 dwelling, which will not get as much income.
How much do you think you're going to need to spend on this to convert it into 2 flats?
I think 120 is 60 apiece, perhaps.
Okay.
And also we've got to go to the loft. Don't forget that. That itself is 25, 30k at least, if not more.
So you're going to be really interested in coming back and seeing, is it going to be flats? Is it going to be a family house?
Well, debatable.
We will wait and see. Oh, Bahram, good luck with this project. It's been lovely meeting you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Bahram made the error of not viewing this property, and now he regrets it. However, the figures could still stack up in his favour. He paid $623,000 for this. He plans to spend a further $120,000 on the refurb. And if he does achieve the top possible resale value of $800,000, he could still make a healthy profit, just not as much as he had hoped. We'll find out how Bahram gets on later on in the programme. It's been a while now, Martin, since we last saw those properties.
Have the new owners been racing through the work?
Or has it all ground to a halt?
Let's go back and find out.